Welcome to the Elliott Confidential podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott, and I'm here with Aaron Elliott. Hello, Aaron.
Hey there, how are you?
Well, we're in an interesting place, and I'm feeling pretty good. Where are we?
We are in Bonaire.
Bonaire in the ABC Islands in the Dutch Caribbean.
Yeah.
We are actually in a vacation rental called Cascaral. It's a nice little house, and it's overlooking the Western Caribbean, and just beyond here is, you can see Klein Bonaire, which is the small island, uninhabited, right off the coast of Bonaire. And then to the left, there's cruise ships. It's a really cool location. We actually met the owner of this place when we checked in, and her name is Femke.
Mm-hmm.
And nice place. If you ever come out here, this is a good place to rent because it's in the middle of everything. It's truly, and it's beautiful too. Nice coral on the floors, and the sides are all done up very nicely.
Yes, it's a coral house.
It's a coral house, absolutely. Everything here is made of coral.
Yeah, the whole island is made out of coral.
Reminds me a lot of the Florida Keys, which is where you were born, and we spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
Which brings us to this next question, which is doppelganger destinations. Have you ever been to a place that reminds you so much of another place that you have to tell someone? For example, Bonaire reminds me a lot of the Florida Keys. It's got the same vibe, it's got the same the smell of the coral, the ocean. It reminds me so much of the Keys.
Yeah.
So tell us about your doppelganger destination, your favorite one. You know, maybe you went to Vermont and it reminded you of Norway, or maybe, Norway does kind of remind you of Vermont, but, or maybe you went out to the desert and it reminded you of being in the Middle East or somewhere else. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Doppelganger destinations. Tell us, please. Aaron, so what do you think of Bonaire?
Wow, well, Bonaire has been an interesting place to be. It's sort of a desert island. The tallest tree is a cactus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really always warm, it's always humid. It's definitely a tropical island.
Bonaire is one of the ABC islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, ABC. It's right off the coast of Venezuela.
Yeah.
And it is the Dutch Caribbean, so everyone here speaks Dutch and another language called Papiamentu.
Yeah.
What is Papiamentu?
Well,
Mr. Linguist.
Mr. Linguist, you're welcome. Papiamentu is a type of Creole, if I'm not mistaken, from a bunch of different languages. So you had slaves brought here, you had Spanish, Portuguese, you had also the Dutch
yeah,
and the English. So it's a bunch of everything.
It's a mixture of lots of different languages, and it's all spoken here, but each island has its own regional Papiamentu dialect. And then if it's more of a Portuguese Brazilian, then it's Papiamentu, and if it's more Spanish, it's Papiamento.
Mm-hmm.
Don't understand very much of it. You probably understand more than I do because you speak all these other languages.
Yeah, but they talk fast, so.
They do, yeah.
That's what it is.
When we got here, we immediately went to a place called Buddy Dive Resort. Buddy Dive Resort is just to the north of here, right near the national park. And it is well known for its diving, obviously because it's a dive resort. And you spent your first few minutes underwater that you've never been in dive gear. So I wanted to ask you, what did you think of that?
Diving is an interesting experience, but I'm way too anxious for diving, I think. I'm not sucking down the air like, what do you call them, air hawks?
Air hogs, yeah.
Yeah, oh, I thought it was hawk. It's like air hogs.
You were really good in the water. You followed the directions well, you clear your mask and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you got in the water, you started to feel a little uncomfortable. I think it was that it was cold.
Yeah, it was very cold.
Yeah.
You would think that the anxiety would actually, warm you up,
Yeah.
but no, It was actually really cold, even though the water was like, what, 29 Celsius?
Yeah, the water here is known for being real warm, but in a 2.5 millimeter wetsuit, you can still get cold very quickly.
Yeah.
And we had a current going, and so I have to ask you, Aaron, are you going to go back in the water? Are you going to dive again, or is this it for you?
I think I'll try again, but for right now, I'm sort of meh. You know, diving, I can expect myself to get better, but I didn't think the experience was really worth it. All the anxiety was like, just so that way I could be underwater and fight currents. I don't know.
No, you were uncomfortable, which is very common for people who start diving. Now, I should say, in a past life, I was a diving instructor, and I hadn't been in the water for a long time. So I've seen a lot of students, on their first day. You were pretty good, so you did everything. The hardest part really was just clearing your mask, and you did a nice job of that.
Yeah, that wasn't very difficult.
No, you did really good. I hope that we can go back in the water soon, because I want to show you some more. It's fun. For me, though, being in the water, it was the first time in 10 years that I had been in dive gear, and wow, yeah, I was putting things in the wrong place. I was setting up my gear the wrong way. I had forgotten a lot, so I'm really grateful to the instructors at Buddy Dive Resort for being so patient with me and, not making fun of the dive instructor who forgot how to set up his own gear.
Yeah.
We met with Paul, who is the general manager over there. I'm working on a story about sustainability, and one of the things that they have going on at that resort is they're trying to replant the corals. Is it corals or coral? I don't know. Anyway, but they have these trees. They're made out of PVC pipe where they're growing coral. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there for that, but the whole initiative looks pretty cool, especially the fact that they're trying to essentially create new coral artificially.
Yeah.
And they're actually having some success from what I can tell.
They are. I mean, the coral is getting pretty bleached. So that's what happens when coral dies. It looks like it's just all white. And there have been some diseases that have come down, and they're trying to find coral to replace it, because no one wants to go diving. There are no fish on a reef that's dead, but no one wants to go diving on a dead reef either. So I also spoke with Caitie, who is the head of communication for an association called the Reef Renewal Bonaire. And they actually are the ones who are trying to replant the reefs all around Bonaire. I will have my interview with her in an upcoming story. But the neat thing is that it's all very coordinated. They are trying to replant the reef all around the island, and it's a lot of dive shops that have gotten together to try to replant the coral.
I'm really grateful for something like this, because it gets you really excited, especially the possibility of there being a super coral. The super coral being a coral that is able to withstand all of the heat, because what they're doing is, in the lab, they're also breeding coral selectively breeding coral in order to create more resistant coral that better lasts, that is more able to sustain, of course, all of the changes with climate change. And I think that that's a really cool thing to think about, that one of these days it might be coral from a lab that you're swimming on, and also
mutant coral.
It's like mutant coral, super coral. It's bring all the coral back, and all of a sudden it's just coral everywhere.
It's going to climb out of the water, and at nighttime, when you're asleep, you're going to feel something right around your ankle, and it's going to pull you into the water.
Okay.
We also went windsurfing with a company called Dunbeck Pro Center on the other side of the island. I spent I got on the board and realized then that I'd probably be better off taking photos. So I took photos of you learning how to windsurf. You did better with windsurfing, I think, than you did with scuba diving. What did you think of windsurfing?
Well, I have to first say that the place, the bay where they're doing this windsurfing is
beautiful.
It's amazing. It's not like other windsurfing destinations, because it is really shallow, firstly. Just shallow enough, so just deep enough so that way you can do windsurfing.
And the water's
But
really
not-
warm too.
Yeah, the water's really warm, but not too shallow where you can't windsurf.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's this perfect environment. You've got consistent wind, and really everyone's out there windsurfing, and it's a really great experience. If you're a beginner, it's very, very, it's very forgiving. It's an environment that you can learn very easily in. And I really enjoyed that experience. Windsurfing is not like anything else. It takes a lot of balance, and it's a lot on your feet, and there's a lot of muscles being used that you don't normally use.
You did good. You did good. I was really proud of you.
But yeah.
We have the pictures to prove it too.
Exactly.
We also took an island tour with our friend Rolando, and Rolando works for the tourism association here, and he showed us some of the parts of the island. We went all over the place. We saw every place except for the national park. We did the national park today. We're recording this actually on a Saturday. What did you think of the tour?
I thought it was a great tour because you got to see all parts of the island. So north, south, just really everything except for, of course, as you said, the national park. And,
yeah.
We got to see Rincon, which is the original Spanish settlement here on
Lots
Bonaire.
of history here. Lots
of history.
Yeah.
And, it was a very good tour. And I thought that it was really especially interesting to see the pink algae at the salt flats, which was something that you don't get to see every day. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, at a certain level of salinity, only certain bacteria can survive, and those happen to be pink bacteria. And so essentially here on the island of Bonaire, they have a natural, proven system of creating salt by just essentially pumping water from different pools.
Yeah, from the ocean, they pump
Yeah.
the water and then they just let it sit.
They just let it sit.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see that in action. You see mountains of salt. I mean, we've seen mountains of salt driving through some parts of the United States, but never anything quite like this. I thought that it was a really interesting experience, and that salt, you can find it anywhere on this island. So even in this vacation rental here, we have a jar full of salt from Bonaire. Have you seen that?
Enormous crystals. Yeah, it needs to still be processed.
Of course, but it's good
there's-
salt.
Yeah.
Is there any such thing as bad salt?
I haven't had bath salt yet. We went over to a place called the Nature Cooking School and met up with a guy named Saeed. I know that I'm pronouncing his name wrong, and I apologize in advance. But interesting concept, which is that they're starting to grow their own vegetables here and teaching kind of a native cooking. When I say native, I mean like a homegrown. I don't want to say indigenous because I don't even know what indigenous is here, but something that is uniquely Bonairean.
Yeah, so Saeed had a lot of influences. I mean, he trained to be a chef
In Curacao.
in Curacao and in the Netherlands.
Right.
And he also, he was inspired by an experience that he had in Bali, of all places, to do a sort of whole food plant cooking experience,
Right.
using whatever you grew in your backyard. And I thought that that was a really interesting concept. And also the teaching that he does it's something that really he's very passionate about, and he especially cares about children learning these techniques of how to cook for yourself better.
Yeah, we had a long discussion actually about kids and how they're being raised now to just eat chicken fingers and pizza, and he's going against that. He has 3 young kids, and he's trying to teach them things like how to make your own food, how to grow your own food. Those are important skills. One day if you decide to live off the grid, maybe, I don't know. But it's always nice to be able to plant your own vegetables and eat them. So I think that that's great. And the food was really good. He seems to be a little bit more influenced by Latin American cuisine. He was dealing with a lot of like salsa and rice and beans. It was very Latin American, very good. Probably the best meal that we've had easily one of the best meals in Latin America, if not the best.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I agree with no contention there.
Today we did something interesting. We went to Klein Bonaire, which is a small island that we can basically see right from our porch. And then we also went over to the national park, which is, and I know that I'm going to mangle the name of this national park.
Slagbij.
Yes, it's called Washington Slagbij?
Slagbij. Slagbij.
See?
I think Slagbij.
Okay. Klein Bonaire. Your thoughts on Klein Bonaire, Aaron?
Klein Bonaire.
Yeah.
Really nice island, actually. Really beautiful white sand beaches.
Oh, yeah.
And once it doesn't look like much from afar, but once you're there, you've got this beautiful teal blue water and fish and pelicans, and it's really amazing. And it's quite the experience.
Yeah,
You've
I
got to
haven't
go
seen
there.
anything like that since living in the Keys.
Mm-hmm.
And I should say that I lived in the Keys twice, once for 2 years, and then another time, which is when you were born, for almost 4 years. So I was in the Keys for a while. And really, the way that it's just the way the place smells, but also the color of the water just reminds me of the Keys a lot. The national park itself, I want to talk about that because don't go to the national park thinking you're going to go to Yellowstone or to Grand Canyon. This national park is much more like John Pennekamp State Park, mostly underwater. If you want to go and really see something beautiful, you've got to get your snorkel gear and go under the water. Otherwise, what does it look like?
Well, it's just a desert island. I mean, lots of
Yeah.
cactus, lots of rocks, coral, lizards, birds.
Yes, lots of lizards.
And some trees. They've got Brazilwood tree, surprisingly.
Tree of Life, too.
Yeah.
The cactuses, I haven't seen cactuses this big since being in the Sonoran Desert. These are huge cactuses.
They're giant. They really
Yeah,
are.
They are. So far, I mean, I think that this is probably pretty much the end of our Bonaire trip. We're on to the next place soon. Overall impressions of Bonaire, who do you think should come here?
Well, I think if you like diving a lot, this is definitely a place to be. If you want a really, I mean, and I'm in no position to actually say this, but if you want a really good experience windsurfing, goodness gracious, I don't think that there could have been a better place to start windsurfing. That was just like the perfect beginner's experience. I felt like I was on easy mode, right?
It's like you're doing a video game.
Yeah, it really did, and it was a very enjoyable experience too. If you like water sports, generally Bonaire is great.
Our question of the week again is doppelganger destinations. What destination reminds you of another place that you've been to? In our last podcast, we were in Panama, and we asked you to tell us what your most impressive public works project was, something like the Hoover Dam or the Panama Canal or Three Gorges, and you had a lot to say. Alan says, Barbara and I are on a repositioning cruise right now on Princess. And you know what that means, Aaron. That means that they're going to go through the canal.
Huh.
We transited through the canal 3 days ago. The following day, we docked in Panama City, and we took an excursion to Gatun Lake. I probably mispronounced that. At a place that we could see jungle beasties close up. We saw howler monkeys, 3 sloths, and iguanas. So I think that will be a vote probably for the Panama Canal.
All right. Craig says the U.S. interstate system.
Good one.
I have to agree with you. I've been watching those videos, those like 10-hour videos of driving through I-10 or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I don't think I've been on a road quite like that. I mean, maybe in Europe there's something similar, but U.S. interstate system is one of the best.
One of my favorite road trips ever was taking I-10 from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way to Santa Monica, California.
Wow.
And we've done that a couple of times. It's just so great. The Great American Road Trip, there's nothing quite like it. Bob says, I'm a huge fan of infrastructure. While I agree that projects like the Hoover Dam and Three Gorges Dam are insanely impressive, one of my favorites is the Boston Central Artery Tunnel Project, aka the Big Dig. The Big Dig was one of the most complex and technologically challenging highway projects in the U.S. No kidding, Bob. I remember when that was being dug up, and it was extremely controversial. They were doing cost overruns, and people were going to jail, and I think one person even got killed during the construction. But yes, the Big Dig is a huge project. What I like best about that is that they had like a highway that used to be one of those overhead highways, like on stilts, and elevated, I think is the correct term, and they took it down and turned it into a park.
Wow.
I love it when they do that because parks are great.
Yeah. Day says, Three Gorges Dam. The project was massive. We saw it in 2007 while more villages were closed, sending farmers to cities where they had no experience living city life. Sad. Oh, well. Three Gorges Dam. Where's that?
In China, yeah. You know what? That's on my list of places to go. I want to do a river cruise in China at some point, but I definitely want to visit. I have not been to mainland China yet. It's one of my bucket list items. Yep. Before I go to the great newsroom up in the sky.
The great newsroom in the clouds.
Sam says, the hundreds of bridges in Norway in the fjords or between islands. Magnificent architecture, the ascent and descent with soaring center to allow for ships to pass underneath. Peaceful and awe-inspiring to glide beneath them. We have been to Norway, but I do not recall these bridges.
Oh yeah, we were. They had when we were doing the Hurtigruten cruise.
Yeah,
they
I don't
had.
remember them.
Yeah, they had particular excursions just to see these. There's one very famous bridge.
Yeah, the bridges.
You would recognize it if I showed you
Yeah.
a photo.
We'll have to go back. I do want to go back to Norway. Maybe this summer we'll have a chance to go.
Suzanne says Grand Canyon West Skywalk.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Grand Canyon is one of the places you have to see. You just have to see it. And the Skywalk course is very famous. The whole West is filled with these amazing public works projects, and Hoover Dam is not that far away from there, so I loved the Hoover Dam. I thought that was one of the coolest things ever. Close to Las Vegas too, so you can go and gamble all your money away.
Huh. Yeah.
Let's see, any more here?
Yeah. Sharon says the Delta Works in the Netherlands, incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
Haven't been there. I mean, have been there, but it was so long ago that I don't remember it. That's on our list, and I think that this summer we're probably going to be able to make it there.
Yeah. I mean, the Netherlands could not have existed without some infrastructure because most of it is just reclaimed land.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with other places like Dubai, for example. Dubai has a lot of interesting infrastructure.
Star Island, definitely. That's
Yeah.
well, I wouldn't call that an infrastructure project. It's more of a construction, like
Yeah.
they created an island. I don't know. Maybe that is infrastructure. Wow, we're off to another island. Where is our next island?
Aruba.
Aruba. There's a song about that somewhere. I'm not going to sing for you though. Yeah, we're going to be in Aruba. We're really looking forward to it. Hopefully get back in the water and have a lot to talk about. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.